rallied in Denver today, raising awareness about sexual assault and harassment. It comes just days after lawmakers in Washington called for mandatory training to prevent harassment in the workplace. Our Sean Chitness was among the crowd at the state capitol today, and he joins us live with more. Sean?
Kathy, organizers wanted to show just how inclusive this campaign can be and to remind everyone that victims of sexual assault can be anyone at any time. That's why today we heard from speakers from both political parties as well as from various backgrounds. They wanted to show that this can happen to men and women at any age, but here in Colorado, there are resources for all of them.
Me Too!
For weeks, we've seen stories on social media using the Me Too hashtag, a national trend giving new energy to a campaign that started more than 10 years ago. Along the steps of the Capitol, speakers shared their stories Sunday and called on Colorado to prevent more cases of sexual assault.
We must teach our children and ourselves that our bodies are our own, and we are not entitled to anyone else's body without their consent.
The different organizations represented at the event and the victims willing to talk about their individual experiences all had a common theme. This happens too often and to too many.
The impacts that has on our community is tremendous, and so it is a matter of public health.
Someone is sexually assaulted in the country every 98 seconds, and 1 in 6 women have faced rape.
We all need to make sure that we help those folks that may not know where to turn.
But the progress they're seeing at this moment makes some of these advocates hopeful. They envision their daughters won't ever need to say, "Me too."
In the next generation that's telling their narrative, that the hashtag is not me, not today, and not ever.
And to learn more about the organizations that were at the rally today, just head to cbsdenver.com. Live at the state capitol, Sean Chitness, covering Colorado First.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mom Talk. Such an important topic, such an important conversation, and I'm so glad and honored to have Tanya Newbould, actress. She's been just a leading force behind conscious media in every way, empowering women in our community, in our greater Los Angeles community, and beyond, globally. What I love about Tanya is her courageous spirit in speaking up, empowering, and connecting women to other women who can be uplifted, empowered, and forceful in joining this movement and leadership. Tanya Newbould, it's a pleasure to have you on Mom Talk again.
Thank you so much. It's always such an honor to spend time with you and to spend time with you.
Welcome. So let's talk about this hot topic. It really was shocking. I think the first time I heard it, I was absolutely shocked in some ways that the Hollywood community is finally breaking through and opening up their gates to the truth. And so in a good way, initially I had that reaction, but then I started thinking about the potential of peace learning and speaking up in hashtag Me Too, and then seeing it on social media. And then I think you and Lisa and a bunch of warrior moms and a bunch of your friends and a bunch of women who are just social media moms started connecting, speaking up, hashtag Me Too, hashtag Me Too. And then slowly we started seeing men who were stepping up and saying, I have, hashtag I have. And so let's start that conversation with your personal journey and your contribution to this.
You know, it's very interesting because when I first started seeing this on social media, and of course it breaks your heart, and I unfortunately have also had a very negative experience in my past in Hollywood, so I did hashtag Me Too, and then I started seeing more and more and more. It got to the point where almost every female that I know on there had a Me Too. There's so many, and I think there's, again, so much shame, stigma around something like this. Also being an actress in Hollywood, when I went through my experience, unfortunately, I was raped by a producer, someone that I knew, and someone that I knew very well, actually. It was so shocking when it happened, and I'm just going to be very upfront about it. It was devastating to me, of course, but I will tell you one of the best things I did was the same night I went home and I called the Rape Crisis Hotline. They could not have been more wonderful. And even if you've had an experience like this, and it's in the past, if it's still haunting you, affecting you, I highly recommend you call them. Because I did, the counselors were amazing, and they sat with me on the phone and they said, first of all, you need to know this is not your fault. And it was such, because when you go through something like that, male, female, you think, I created this, I brought this on to me. It's a natural way to think. But no means no in any situation. Stop means stop. So when someone does not honor that, it becomes about power and anger. It's actually not a sexual act, although it appears to be. And it is devastating to a human being. And male or female, they'll carry this forward. So we need to expose this, to get light on it, to get it talked about so that we as a society can heal and stop this behavior.
Beautiful. And thank you for your courage. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for taking a step up in bringing more awareness and making this a matter that really is important to all of us, to all our families. I believe it's so closely tied into peace learning and conscious living, and how we as conscious living individuals, as conscious families, as families of faith, as families who are living with the hope of bringing or creating or cultivating a better future with peace for our future generation. This is something positive that we can do and be proud of. And I think when we join forces, when we listen to these very heart-warming stories, I mean, I have to say, my heart is broken, but also warm for you, Tanya. And thank you for finding the courage to share your story on Mom Talk. I will eternally be grateful to you, and encourage all of you, the audience, to have courage.
Yes.
Because with courage, we will be empowered. With courage, we can reach out and support each other and say, I hear you, I hear your story, I hear your narrative, I honor it, and now you are going to be the leading lady who's going to educate our daughters, our
Absolutely.
future women, the little girls who need to know no means no, and they need to know how to, I guess, take the right steps in protecting themselves.
Well, I think that's a very, very important subject. We have daughters, and or if you have a son, it really doesn't matter. It really is about educating your child in a way that you're not instilling fear, but you are letting them know if anyone ever says anything that makes you recoil, if anyone ever touches you that is not your mommy or daddy, you know, it in a way that
Does
you
it
just
feel comfortable?
Doesn't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
You, I don't care if you are 3, if you are 10, if you are 18, if you're 45, you have the right to say no.
Right.
I'm not comfortable with this. Come to mommy and daddy. You will not be in trouble. We just want to know to protect you. And I've always taught that to my daughter because she's a beautiful little girl inside and out. And I don't ever want her to have to deal with that.
That's right. That's right. And your leadership and your voice and your story and your narrative is going to empower her, and she will empower other friends and other girls and other boys, and she will honor healthy boundaries, and she will honor and cultivate peace learning because you are conscious and you're a conscious parent, and so can you. So the whole point of Mom Talk and our conversations is to empower you, to help you as a parent, as a conscious parent, evolve and move to the next stage of development. And we are talking about aggression, we are talking about sexual development, and how we can cultivate peace learning within those areas when many of us have these pathological, these unhealthy, epigenetically, sort of historically induced tendencies. So we have to become aware. You know, when I started thinking about the hashtag #MeToo, even though initially my reaction was to kind of resist and not think about those memories, then I allowed it into my psyche and into my consciousness, and then I started thinking about those situations when I was a little girl in school, when I was taking swim lessons, when I was going through high school, and the people who made me feel uncomfortable by not having healthy boundaries. By just the comments they made, by the way they touched me, by the way they, made me feel at the workplace. Even as a psychologist, as a clinical psychologist working in the office, I've had those patients who have made me feel uncomfortable because they sexualized me, they objectified me, and they saw me as a sex object. So in those situations, of course, as a psychologist, you have more awareness, you have more skills, and you know how to manage, diffuse, and get out of the situation. But, there are other times. I remember when I was a little girl taking swim lessons, the coach was inappropriate. And it always stuck with me. Yeah. Because I knew that the touch or the comments or the way his relationship was developing as a coach and student relationship, there was something wrong with it, And I remember talking to my parents at the time. I think my parents were experiencing a little bit of shame, and so they didn't want to really confront or talk. But eventually, I ended up, moving to a different group of swimmers, and I think that was their way of dealing with that. Right. But at the time, I remember feeling like that wasn't fair. There was something unfair about that because I just didn't want to be in a situation where they were commenting about my bathing suit or even the touch. You can felt uncomfortable. Yes. Right?
Well, and I think that's part of the problem in Hollywood and being an actor. You want to work. You have this talent. You want to be on camera. It's an extremely competitive field. There's so many people, and so people will shame you into thinking that is a way to get a role, which most of the time, let me tell you something, it doesn't happen anyway. The people who end up doing stuff like that usually aren't the people who are going to give you a role because you did a sexual act with them. You're going to get that role because of right place, right time, right part. Keep who you are as a core. Do not sell your soul. Nothing on this planet is worth it for that. But I think it's very easy for a young, vulnerable human being who gets into this industry, may have not come from a great family life. Maybe you have, but you think, oh, well, this is a way for me to get what I feel I need. But that person is taking a piece of your soul when they do that. So there's a sadness behind it. You may get there somehow, but it's not the way you want to, and then it's something that you carry with you. But I'm going to encourage anyone who goes through anything like this, again, talk about it. If you talk about it, find a community, a safe place, whether it be the Rape Crisis Hotline, whether it be a counselor, whether it be a good friend, a parent, a sister or brother, someone you can talk to about it to help you get that out of your body so you're not carrying it with you, and get rid of it and be able to move through your life. Even though I went through this negative experience, I truly have to say, I don't carry it. Like, I had that moment of like, oh, yes, that has happened to me. I was very fortunate that the person who did it to me actually did realize what he did was wrong, and he called me constantly. I didn't talk to him for a very long time, and then eventually I did, and he said, I am so, so, so sorry. I was so wrong in what I did to you. And I think that helped me heal too. So those are some different ways to heal.
Yeah, different ways to heal. The topic of our mom talk and how to heal and how to cultivate peace learning in these times where aggression and sexual violence, and especially aggression and sexual violence towards women, is a hot topic, and a topic that we need need to keep upfront in cultivating sort of early prevention, cultivating the tools and the skill set that our children need to deal and cope and feel empowered in those situations. So as an individual, so that they're not violating boundaries and they're being respectful of those boundaries, others' boundaries, and they understand the difference between no and consensual.
Yes.
Teenagers these days, there's a sense of entitlement sometimes, especially sometimes with kids who are a little more popular, kids who are, for whatever reason, they find more resources and they think that they have the right to violate and cross those boundaries, and the truth is they don't. And so as parents or co-parents, because we do live in a community where I think we have to hold each other responsible.
I agree.
So if you see my daughter or my son behave inappropriately, I expect you to come and say, Nelly, I saw, Cyrus or Cammie or Chloe engage in this type of behavior, aggressive behavior, or this is what they did. And so the cultivation of peace comes in trusting each other as conscious parents to help elevate and empower peace learning and being good listeners, because many times we're biased as parents. Oftentimes, I think many times we're just
How
biased.
can you not be? We love our children.
We love our children. So I much rather hear from you, Tanya, about my children. And school is a great place. You go. I think for you to trust your teachers, the kids' teachers, the school environment, because that's when they're authentically themselves. That's when they are opening up and being in a full social, environmental position. So listening to teachers, when teachers say, your son or your daughter, they need to work on their social skills, or they're a little too aggressive, or they need to kind of self-regulate or down-regulate better, or whatever those tips are, take them seriously. Don't get defensive. Take them seriously and talk with them in how you can cultivate peace learning. It's an educational plan that cultivates character, compassion, peace learning, and it helps, I think, raise leaders. I think our children are going to be the future leaders on these matters, that they're, like you heard in the opening video, that they will say, I'm so glad that we don't have to deal with all that, what our parents and their generation dealt with, #MeToo, that they would laugh about it and say, what was that all about? I mean, not laugh, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean, yeah.
And so it is our responsibility, I think, as moms, as dads, as educators, as
I agree.
Community members, to hold each other accountable, to have high expectations when it comes to managing and handling aggression and sexual development.
Yeah, I agree. And just to always be supportive, and, parents, if your children come to you with any information, really listen to that.
Yeah.
Don't say, oh, okay, I'm sure, even if they're dramatic or overactive, really listen and take that to heart. Because if a child is coming to you with some sort of information, there's a reason why.
Right. Listen, tune in, stay attuned, not just to your child, but also to the friends of your children and their friends, and try to stay within their cognitive maps, to have an understanding of what their tendencies are. Being focused on social skills, healthy social skills, is very, very crucial to peace learning. Children who are not developing well on the cultivation of peace and character as it relates to social skills are at risk.
Yeah.
So if you have a child who's not a good communicator, if you have a child who has trouble down-regulating feelings and emotions, if you have a child who can't, connect to others and is not interested, or goes online and is into grumpy, cats, or I'm just saying, these are initial This is how the aggression or the aggressive behavior starts to cultivate. So the same way that we want to cultivate peace, we also want to be aware of the cultivation of aggression and to catch it early and to nip it in the bud.
Well,
right?
Can I say something on that topic? Talking about social media, we're in a very different generation than what we grew up in. Social media is the forefront of everything, YouTube, videos. I have a 9-year-old daughter. Since she was 1.5, she's been on an iPad because, iPad, look at this, look how they can do it. How neat is that? Not really realizing it can be a very unhealthy environment. First of all, regulation, like you were saying. As parents, we are not sitting with our children the entire time they're on these electronics. We're cooking dinner, we're paying bills, getting things done in the house. It is very easy, and I'm going to tell you an example. I allow my daughter 1 hour a week of YouTube in our house. It's only allowed on the weekend, half hour Saturday, half hour Sunday. I've learned she has to be in earshot so I can hear what she's listening to. And there are several that I've said, no. And I kind of go through, and I have the filters and everything. I'm going to tell you something horrifying. I went to close a bunch of windows on it. It had gone to a porno site. Oh. And I was like, I just about, and I'm going to bring this up because it happens. It scared me. I was sick to my stomach, but yet I didn't want to overreact around my daughter. I closed it down, and then I said, Ava, can we talk about, we brought it up. She burst into tears. Poor baby, because she's thinking, I did something wrong. I ended up here. The way they have these things structured, you hit this, you hit this, you hit this. But we talked about it several times. I did talk to a marriage and family therapist to make sure I was handling it appropriately. Check back in with her to make sure. You can tell when your child is clear and when they're still holding on to something. And I did it a couple times till now she doesn't even remember the incident, which is great. Or maybe she does. Either way, but it's very important to be aware of what your child is watching on those, because you can get into some videos that promote violence, aggression, bad behavior, snotty behavior, disrespectful behavior. And there are skits, like the people who are doing it are doing little skits, but our children don't necessarily know that.
Right. I mean, the new tween sort of YouTuber world with Jake Paul and Logan Paul and, these YouTubers who are super famous and they do well. is that it's created its own culture. So now you have tweens and teens who are tuning in to these messages, to these stories, to these skits, and how they're creating these reality shows, on YouTube. And you're right. I think if you're not there, if you're not present, and if you're not engaging in a continuous media literacy sort of dance with your child, that you might lose them. And they might just hold on to that piece of information or that scene or those words or those images that will stick with them and will disable or enable their healthy, natural, organic development, their consciousness. And so basically by being present and by being aware and by knowing your child well enough that if they're starting to behave or feel differently, your child. If you're attuned to your child and you're conscious and you're a conscious parent, when something is off. So when they're off, to make sure that you process and talk about those messages. And I always like sitting with the kids and looking at some of the media content that they engage in. And I never ban. I always say, okay, well, with some of the content, of course, it has to be age and, it has to be appropriate. But if the language is too rough or there are disrespectful comments, I always speak up. And I always say our perspective and how our family, interacts and behaves and engages in conversations very differently, that there are going to be many different families and many different people who will have different tendencies, different values, different attitudes. And so, yes, you are going into a world when you are on the screen and you're allowing your child to YouTube when you have to, I think as a conscious parent, you have to equip them with ways of making sense of the junk and the noise and
Yes.
the anti sort of cultivation of peace.
Yeah.
You know, we're like in war with media.
It's kind of true. It is. It's a little frightening.
It is.
Different than having a movie on the television that you're very aware of.
Yeah.
These are all things too that I think as our children progress, they can lead to, and what you're saying is so relevant and true. I had a moment with Ava that I saw like, I don't know that why is she behaving a little more aggressive? Like they'll watch something and then try it out on you, whether it be a language or an attitude,
Right.
you know. And so just to be like, that's actually not appropriate. That's not how we behave. And just to always, you know, make sure. And now Ava's to the point where she'll say, Mommy, is this okay for me to watch? Is this a good one? Which I'm so grateful that she'll check in. And the more we create trust in our children,
Yes.
and the more they'll come to, like Ava, we went through a lovely phase where my daughter loved to tell lots of stories that weren't true. And so rather than punish her for that, what we kept reassuring her is that if you tell us the truth, you will not be punished. Now it's to the point where she was with a friend and they wanted to watch something. She said, can I tell my mommy because I don't have secrets from her? I was like,
Awesome. Yes, good conscious parenting, and those moments where we're feeling blessed and, you know, just feeling grateful. And I know in times like this, when you turn on the news and you're hearing about the Texas shooting, you're hearing about the
Vegas shooting,
the ISIS driver, the truck driver who runs people at the park, you know, the amount of violence and aggression and awful, just tragic violence and aggression that our children are exposed to because of media and because of social media and just their worlds. You know, this is a different time when I think people are just desperate. You know, I sense in pain. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
And so how do we come alongside each other as community members to decrease the pain, to bring more happiness, to cultivate peace? It's a everyday job kind of work, right?
Well, and what you're saying is so accurate, and I think it's a natural tendency to look at someone who did something so horrific, think, what a horrible human being, good, they got what they deserved, and it's a natural tendency when the reality is, I do believe we are all a collective, that we are all connected, and when people can commit such horrific acts, it's because somewhere deep down inside, they were very damaged. They were very hurt. They were not loved. They were not cared for. They feel like they are suffering and they don't know what else to do, and they're acting out. I totally respect and listen if something happened to a family member. I have no judgment in how someone reacts as far as how people feel, but I will say praying for people.
Yeah.
Even the ones that you go, how could you pray for that person when they did this? How can you forgive that person? The power of prayer, the power of trying to find, and I'm not going to try and make it okay, but to find a speck of love for someone who must be in so much pain.
Yeah, and that's real compassion. It's real sort of connection, finding those moments to have empathy for the families affected by this tragedy, as well as just, you're right, that the type of suffering that this individual has gone through their life to get to a point where this is the only way they can end their suffering is to get a gun and go into the church and shoot family members. So if you can just imagine the mindset and how, I mean, there's so much pain in that. And every time I hear the narrative or a story like this, I'm like, mental health. You know, we need to raise more awareness and do more in mental health. Because had they caught this early in teen years, and young adult years, and when there was that report of domestic violence, had they caught it then perhaps those people would still be alive today. And so it's really
Well, and I think that brings up another very relevant topic is the lack of, what's the word I'm looking for, of the scope to detect people who do have mental health issues in the teen years, in the child, like toddler, kid years, elementary school. There are signs. I think there should be more, again, more screening, because if we can detect, like, okay, this person has things that they're suffering from, or they're in pain, or things have happened, it could be in the family, whatever, to help them as they're growing up. And also, too, there used to be places that would house people that had severe mental issues. You don't see that anymore. Now everything's like, here's a pill, go feel better.
And also, they miss that window, the window of opportunity from 10 to 24, or 0 to 10, even more importantly, for children who have lack of development or are developmentally young in certain areas. Social skills is a huge, huge opportunity. So children who are lacking social skills, this is the time. I mean, I even say, it has nothing to do with autism or the spectrum. I say, why not equip children or come to children who have limited social skills and really just pour them with love and attention and give them the tools so that they can grow up with good, healthy social skills. Because that, to me, is the primary line of prevention, early prevention. And if you can catch it then, why not give everyone OT and
Absolutely.
Right? Because what's the
there's no harm.
There's no harm.
There's no harm.
Right? But you're catching some of the sensory integration processing issues early enough so that these kids don't grow up to be the awkward kid or victim who's then bullied or has so much resentment or aggression, and then that aggression grows, and if you don't get to it, then you get tragedy.
Well, I want to bring up something that I found is so fascinating, and it goes along with what you're saying about OT. So my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD and anxiety. I used to see quite a bit of anger. I now understand that anger was coming from left brain, right brain, not connecting properly, and how frustrating it is that you can't stay focused. You can't, one part of your body wants you to do one thing, another part wants you to do another. For me personally, I did not want to medicate, so I put her in a program called Brain Balance, which is, it's created by a chiropractor, and it's all about finding the functions of the body, right brain, left brain, and getting them connected. She was in it for 6 months. I have a different child. The level of frustration, anger, and anxiety has completely settled down. Some of it's, age, just what they go through with growing, and then others, I feel like we address some things. I have this happy child. I mean, it's amazing. And as a parent, I want you to try something. If your child acts out, gets angry, which is hard on us too, especially if we have a lot going on, instead of getting angry with them or at them, look at them and say, do you need a hug right now? And they can be throwing a temper tantrum and mad, and I have grabbed my daughter where she's resistant, and then they break. And they sob or cry or whatever it is, and you just hold them, and it drains right out of them.
And that's because you're a conscious parent, and that's because you're aware and attuned with your daughter, and that's because you know how to cultivate peace and peace learning. So to all of you parents who are experiencing those similar frustrations and getting into sort of a power struggle with a child who's frustrated easily, or who regresses easily, or who reacts easily, it's really, really important to take those signs very seriously and to provide the right tools. Sensory integration processing is very real. There is enough evidence now for us to know that if you catch it early, if you cultivate that integration, like you said, the right left brain, as well as just the neurological development of the brain, that just by those early OT experiences, or you can even do it yourself, If you don't have the funds or the access to OT, go online. They have lots of wonderful books on sensory integration processing exercises. I'm happy to post those on Mom Talk LA and to share those resources. They have these sensory pillows where, you know, it's $10 and you get a pillow, and just by your child sitting on these pillows, you're encouraging and cultivating the integration of the brain. So simple steps that you can. I know.
I use it sometimes myself. I want one. I could use that.
Right? I mean, we're all overstimulated.
Yeah.
So we might as well. I might get a couple for Mom Talk.
I think that might be nice. We can sit on those.
But take it seriously, catch it early, and let's do this. We're all in it together. I think cultivation of peace comes from also seeing the flip side of the coin, which is aggression. So when we see aggression and aggressive behavior, we're responsible. It's hard work. Peace learning is not a dream. It's an everyday hard work where you are aware, you're conscious, and you're also staying attuned to your children, and you're cultivating their peace learning experiences. But we have to take it seriously.
We do, and it is very frightening when you first realize, like, uh-oh, my child's not acting like all the other children. Why is my child doing this? Why is my child getting up in the middle of class and walking out of her classroom for no reason, or hiding in the bathroom? As a parent, I can tell you it's frightening, because you think, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why are they acting like this? Why aren't they normal? Why aren't they acting like it? Go past that and then say, okay, what do we need to do? What can I do? Be in communication with your spouse or your partner. How do we come together? Because at the end of the day, your child is absolutely perfect just the way they are. It's just a matter of helping move them in a direction where they can find the peace, where they can find solace in themselves.
I love you. I love listening to you and having Mom Talk with you.
I love being here.
I could just sit here and do Mom Talk all day with Tanya Newbould. She is conscious, she is passionate, and she has such good tips as a parent advocate. Yes. I find your voice very empowering for parents who are going through struggles, and we all go through struggles. Yes. I go through struggles every single day, Tanya, just with my kids, with my husband, with my extended family. It's a hustle. Every day it's a hustle. But guess what? If I'm leaning into it and intentionally focusing on the peace learning process, I'm going to come out of it learning a little bit more about that situation, and my social skills will be a little more advanced and developed, and I can be proud of my hard work. Yes. Even in the suffering, even when you're in the belly of the beast and really suffering, just remind yourself, take a moment to pause, step out of your situation, and just breathe. Just breathe.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well,
I mean, we pray. I know you and I, we use prayer.
The power of prayer is very important. But also, too, the power of taking a breath. And listen, as parents, sometimes we need to remove ourselves.
Yes, good point.
Because if I've had a bad day, I'm overtired, I have too much going on, and then my child has a meltdown, suddenly that is the straw that broke the camel's back. How could you? You have to take yourself out of that situation, go, this is my child who's X amount of years old, age appropriate behavior. I'm the one who's having the inappropriate behavior because I'm expecting them to behave like me or as an adult, and I don't always do that well either. So taking that time to realize, I also want to touch on one other thing with social media, and we've touched on this in other topics. Social media is fantastic, and it's also the devil. There, I said it.
Yep.
Because I see pictures of you and your family, and everything's perfect and smiling and beautiful, and they're here and they're doing this. And I'm saying this as a general statement. We all do this with each other. We're not posting pictures when I'm mad, upset, crying, angry, overtired, exhausted. Everyone's just sitting, like no one's posting those pictures. So we have the tendency to look at social media and think everyone has a perfect life but me. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's not true.
And I always say to my audience and my social media sort of followers, I say what you see on my social media is only 50% of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm very strong about it because 50% of my life you don't see. First of all, many of my friends are not on social media. My extended family, my husband, my very close people, right? They're not on social media. So you're not getting a glimpse or a true sort of understanding of my whole life because I don't post and I don't share those private experiences. So what you see, like Tanya was saying, the moments where I'm suffering, the moments when, which I actually have been, that's been one of my sort of focuses for this coming sort of evolutionary year. I want to post more of those
I think that
moments
we should
where
start a movement
right?
doing that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Honestly, let's create a hashtag.
Me too.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way.
We can join the Me Too in a way.
In a way.
Yeah, in a way.
And really showcase it's not always perfect.
Yeah.
None of us.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
I think we
it's
should do
not. Yeah, we're gonna do it.
Okay,
we're
we're
gonna
gonna
do
find-
it.
we'll
yeah,
let you
it's
know.
part of our peace movement. And so yes, 50% of what you see is maybe my life with some filters and some, like you say, happy
Lots of
moments.
filters.
Lots of filters.
In my case.
And it's so funny because the next generation, they hate filters. My children, when I'm posting, they're like, "Mom, why are you filtering it? Just post it."
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I guess
Why
you
do you
guys
look
are
like
more
you're on a
evolved.
cloud? With perfect skin.
Right? So the next generation, they're more, I think they're more authentic, and it really warms my heart.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's lack of authenticity if you're using filter, because I use filters.
I love 'em.
I love filters. I just like beauty, so I think sometimes it
I do
looks
too.
more colorful.
Yeah. It's our own little Photoshop.
And
No,
it's like
fun.
a painting, you
Yes.
know?
Yeah.
So don't judge. Just enjoy the social media. Don't judge. Don't personalize it. Don't
Yeah.
think you know the person just because you're following their life on Instagram. You don't. You really don't. You have no idea who they are
Yeah.
and what's happening in their lives. And I think try your social media to uplift, to empower, to connect. I can't tell you from social media how many wonderful, amazing relationships or connections and developments have happened for Mom Talk, for Peace Learning, for
Love
work. So in that sense, so grateful. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, Insta Live
Yes.
and Facebook. But in other ways, don't take it seriously, right?
Yeah.
Be a fool sometimes and don't take it seriously. And so Tanya and I are going to start posting some, what is it? What should we call them?
Not so perfect moments. We'll call them that.
Not so perfect moments. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe that'll be it. Not so perfect.
All right. Not so perfect.
Not so perfect. I
Very
kinda like
cool.
that.
I like it. All right. So stay tuned for
Yeah.
that. Okay. I know your movie, or the conscious media, yes, is doing very well internationally,
Thank you.
globally.
Yes.
Give us an update.
So, When the Bow Breaks, which is a documentary about postpartum depression, and we cover everything from the baby blues to psychoses. It is a 90-minute documentary, feature film. We are now in 70 countries. Wow. We're in 6 languages. We are going all over the world. We get emails, messages daily. Lindsay Gerst, who has been on here before, Mom Talk, handles most of that on Facebook, answers every single comment that comes
incredible.
in. She's incredible.
She's incredible. Yep.
And it has changed the lives of so many women, husbands, families. We've had people say, "You've saved our life. You have stopped me from harming my child." And when we created this documentary, that is exactly what we wanted to do. There's so much stigma still around that subject as well. So it's very important to continue to get the word out there, which is what we're doing, and doing public speaking anywhere that we can touch people, because it is a movie for every human being. It is available on both iTunes and Netflix and Hulu. Voodoo, so all these lovely names, but a lot of opportunities to see it, share it. We're now also with Canopy that does educational markets, so that's very exciting as well. We're very grateful for all of it and to Gravitas for distributing it.
And it's been translated in how many languages?
6 languages now.
6 languages.
Yes, and
wow.
hopefully more to come.
Yeah, I know you and I have been talking about the translation for Farsi, and
Definitely would like to
there's
see
so
that
much
happen.
interest. After we did
Yes.
a couple of shows with Tanya and Lindsay, there was so many emails and requests. Will you please translate this to Farsi so that we can share and we
know.
can have this in Iran and in the Middle East for women who are going through postpartum depression. So I can't wait.
Yeah,
I
we
think-
have to figure that one out for sure.
Well, so
We
if
will.
you are interested in connecting with Tanya and Lindsay and helping with this translation, I know you're a nonprofit organization, and I know you also look for sponsors and people
do.
who can sponsor this. It would be great community service. I know for those organizations who want to promote health and empower women to have better health. And,
Yes.
Right? It's so important. So if you're that company, let's step up.
That
Let's
would be
connect
amazing. That
and make
would be
this happen.
amazing.
It would be amazing.
It would be, and we also partner with Postpartum Support International, which is a warm line for anyone experiencing postpartum depression, kind of like the rape crisis hotline that I spoke about at the beginning of the show. Someone will pick up the phone and speak with you and talk you through those really tough moments. I think that's very important to share.
Yes, very important work. I think when it comes to women's health and the media and elevating conscious media and those who are working on conscious media projects like Tanya and Lindsay, we just have to step up, guys. So if you're at, I don't know, Google or some big organization who you have funds and you can help, reach out, connect, make this happen. It will
Be
save
amazing.
lives.
It will save lives, I promise.
It will save lives. So you won't go unnoticed, and the service will be eternally appreciated by generations to come. So we had this great mom talk. I
Yes.
was empowered. I was touched. Heartwarming as always. I love you.
Love you.
And
Always
love having
a pleasure.
you on Mom
Thank
Talk.
you so much.
And stay tuned. Connect with us.
Yes.
Go on Mom Talk LA on our social media. And how can they reach you, Tanya?
I'm on Instagram also as Tanya4RE. I made that title before I knew how to do it. But you can always reach out to me on Facebook, Tanya Newbould. I would love to hear from you and anything that we can do to make your day better. I'm happy to
So,
do.
me too. Stay empowered, stay connected, and let's continue this movement for peace, for character, for bringing more equity, equanimity, diversity, and mental health, and just good health to our community. Women, little girls, and men, and families, and everyone included on this globe and are considered as earthlings. So love you. Peace learning is not a dream. Don't
No.
forget, it's hard work and it's everyday life.
And so worth it.